So now that we learned the three things we need to do an investment, let's think about the four things, how to score an investment.
Oh, I like it.
And if that investment is good or bad. And I'm sorry to make this list of things, but
I love lists.
So how do you score? You're a very smart girl. So how do we score an investment? Number one thing that I do to score an investment is called capital preservation. And capital preservation, in simple terms, is what is the probability of this investment going to zero?
Oh.
So if you buy a multifamily building, the probability of that thing going to zero, I think, is quite low.
Yeah,
right?
Very low.
If you buy a biotech company stock, the probability of that company going to zero is not that small.
It's not like buying a multifamily unit, I'll give you that.
Right? If you buy the S&P 500, the probability of it going to zero is low. But if you buy a crazy stock that's a new company, it's higher. So first of all, what is the probability of that thing going to zero? And when we put in a trade, sometimes a lot of our trades have a 20-30% probability of going to zero, of losing everything. So that's not insignificant. And that's why one of the important things in trading is not risking the farm on a single trade. That you girls always promote trade small and trade often, because capital preservation is very important, because making, saving capital, building capital is very hard, and losing it is very easy. So,
yes.
So the number one thing that I look at is what is the probability that I'm going to lose my shirt, right? The number two factor that I look at, I know it's boring, and it's tax efficiency of this investment.
Ooh.
So I have a lot of friends who make a lot of money a year. And what they do is, for example, they have a $20 million tax bill. So what do these smart people do? So what they do is they buy an airplane. They go and they buy a huge building and take the accelerated depreciation and try to offset
the taxes.
The tax implication that they have. In trading, we have some vehicles that are more tax efficient than others. Like if you trade SPX, NDX, etc., the indices, some of the profits that you make during the year, they're considered long-term capital gains, and they're taxed differently than short-term capital gains.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Yes, keep going.
So that's an important factor when making an investment. We've all heard about buy, borrow, die, and that's how rich people, they never sell anything. So they buy an asset, and then they borrow against the asset, and lastly they die, and the kids get their stepped-up basis from the asset. So they never sell. So that's a tax-efficient way of looking at and investing. See, the third thing that I look at, so we looked at capital preservation, we looked at tax efficiency. The third thing that I look at when I do an investment is the cash flow. If you buy a multifamily building or a rental, the rent from the units is your cash flow. If you buy AT&T stock, the dividend from that stock is your cash flow. When you sell a naked put, the extrinsic value versus your buying power reduction is your yield, is your cash flow.
Correct.
So that's a very important factor for me when I put in a trade or I do an investment. Is that investment going to yield any yield? There's some investments that have no yield, right?
Right.
You buy a tech company that doesn't pay dividends, you're just going for capital appreciation.
You're just waiting prayer, you want it up. Correct.
Exactly. But I at this type of my old age, I always want something that gives me some money back, right? And that's why I like selling premium, and because premium in essence is renting your capital for risk.
And I know you have a fourth one to go through, but I wanted to talk about, you were talking from very large account sizes. You're talking about a $20 million bill. And I love that. I love that $20 million tax bill, and everybody aspires to be there. So I love talking from this perspective. But one of my favorite things about this discussion is it can be taken down to a nugget size as well. I've got my son with you in mind, thinking it's the same thing as real estate. If you want little bits of cash flow, he got a $5,000 account last year. My daughter's about to get hers, and taking that and being like, okay, from this perspective, it's the same thing as if you bought a tiny little sliver of a building and you're getting cash flow from it. It's the same concept. You can take it down to whatever nugget size you need to.
You know, my son, who loves the oil business, he purchased a fraction of an oil field in Texas from this huge company, Apache. So he's getting, a couple $100 a month, but he's in the oil business now and he's getting cash flow. And, now that oil shot up a lot, his $200 is all of a sudden like $280. So
his timing is amazing. I love it.
Well, he should have bet the farm, the oil field, but no.
No, capital preservation. Capital preservation. You can't bet the farm.
So we saw capital preservation, we saw tax efficiency, we saw cash flow. And at the end, we're going to talk how to improve each one of those. And the fourth and important part of how I analyze an investment is, does this investment grow in value with time? So, this has been very distorted recently because the government's printing so much money. All the money that gets printed, unfortunately, ends up in the financial markets and in the asset markets. So sometimes things go up in value, but they really didn't go up in real value. They went up in nominal value. And that's something that's scary for people. I have a neighbor here he told me, Tony, I bought my home for $280,000. Now it's $6 million. I said, okay, great. Let's do this experiment. Let's divide the $280,000 between the price of an ounce of gold back then, and now let's divide your $6 million into ounces of gold right now. So to make the long story short, Liz, he could turn his house into double the ounces of gold when he bought it than right now. So in nominal terms, that's why we're playing with monopoly money. In nominal terms, his house went from 280 to 6 million. But in gold terms, which is real money, he lost half of his money.
That's amazing. I'm sure he was not even prepared to have that type of a discussion with you.
No. And the worst part is those fake profits, they're not real, because if he sells the asset, he's going to lose half of that to taxes.
Taxes. There you go. He's going to have to go buy an airplane.
So it's horrible. And we need investments that grow in value with time. Now, if you buy a rental building, it should go up in value in time. If you buy Apple stock or Nvidia stock, it should go up in value in time. But when we put on a trade, normally our trades do not go up in value in time because they expire, and we only have the yield. So this is where trading and investment, I think, separate themselves. All the trades that we don't do them for capital expansion. If we buy stock and hold them, then yes. But in our trades that we put on for 45, 60 days out, those have no growth. You know
what you're going to make. You've locked in what you're going to make within a certain time frame. Correct.
Yes. Unless you do a SPX box trade, then the growth is already built in there, right? Yeah. So these are the 4 ways that I would encourage everyone listening to score their investments: capital preservation, tax efficiency, cash flow, and growth. And like I said, you need 3 things: capital, time, and knowledge. Now, if you'd like, so I'm obsessed with these 4 things, and I want to go with you because you're very smart, and maybe I'm going to learn stuff that I've never thought about, and I want to go through with you and look at a trade in using these lenses.
I love it.
What do you think?
I love it. I am 100% in. So okay. I'm going to assume we're going to the SPX?
Well, yeah, we can go to SPX, SPY, MES. Last time I went to what did I do with Jenny? We did SPY, I
You did
think.
spy. Yeah. No, I did love what you said too. I love all of this, Tony. And like I said, I'm going to walk away a better trader because you're a very methodical trader and you're a very good teacher. You're walking through good steps like this. But I did love what you said about the cash, the tax efficiency of SPX and NDX. It is something that a lot of people, we were on the road. We've been on the road for a long time. There are my album covers behind us. And we ran into so many people that have been trading for years. And they say at the end of the day, SPX, they wind up just trading the SPX because it kind of fits a lot of your mantra in the fact that is it going to go to zero? It's a basket, right?
Yeah.
No, and it's very tax efficient.
Yeah. So let's look at a simple trade and a short naked put on SPX.
Okay. So I'm going to assume 45 days till expiration.
45 days. We can go, 60 days, whatever you'd like. 45 days is great.
It's pretty liquid, so I'm going to go to 46 days. I mean, meaning usually we try to stay with the regular monthlies, but I'm going to go with 46 days.
Right. So the reason why we don't buy premium, let's say we go to our 16 delta.
16 delta, you got it. I'm going to go 16 delta put or call. Call.
No, I don't know if you remember calls. Calls give me a stomach burn.
I know. The 16 delta put. I'm going to go all the way down to 16.
I've heard of calls, but I don't touch them very much.
I naked calls and I do not get along as well.
I heard of them, but So
my biggest losses to this date were with naked calls.
Yes.
Naked short calls. Got to say that. Yeah. Okay.
So if we buy that 6050, 6050, we have a 16% chance of this trade going to zero, right?
Correct.
So on a capital preservation basis, that's not a good trade, right? So I wouldn't buy something that has 85% chance of disappearing. Now, tax efficiency, this has negative yield, right? And it is tax efficient because I can take my losses for SPX. So all of a sudden, this trade doesn't make sense. No, right?
It's funny. It was hard to press the button to even show it.
It is hard. Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. So, but if we sell it, the probability of this trade, for me going to zero is losing our shirt, right? The probability of this trade of us losing $600,000, like the platform is saying, I think it's very low, right?
Well, it is very low because that is saying it's going to zero, and we've already kind of established that things have gone. If this goes to zero, we've got bigger things to worry about.
If this goes to zero, I mean, forget it.
That's what TP has once told this to me when we were doing a show. He said, if this goes to zero, we're worried about shelter. So
exactly. But on a capital preservation basis, this trade is much safer than if we sell the 6600 put, right?
The 6600 put, correct. Let me go to the 6600 put. In the money put, so 6600.
Or 60, yeah, right at the money.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that trade is much riskier, right? And it has a bigger risk of us losing a big amount of money than the other trades, right? I think we agree on that.
Correct, because it's nearer to the at the monies. It's a little bit riskier of a trade. Correct.
Yeah, but in the other factor that we use to analyze trades, this has a much bigger yield than the other trade, right?
Correct.
So this thing is yielding 175 divided by I'm gonna say 9,000.
Yes.
Right.
Buying power.
Yeah.
Well, so you're looking at buying power in a portfolio margin account, just my guess, correct?
Oh, how much is it?
This is 131,000. That's why, you know what? Should we go to, let's go to
SPY.
Let's go to SPY. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but this just for people to kind of understand the numbers.
Of course.
Yeah, so here I'm going to go to 46 days. We'll be very honest there. And I'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to do the at the monies. So here it's $13,000 to make 1,700.
So 1,700 divided by 13,000. So the yield is around 13%, right?
Yeah, it is.
For 45 days. It's crazy, right?
Yes.
If we go to the 16 delta, the same one that we had, the 605.
So yeah, so 605 right here. So what we did is we cut everything in a tenth. So here you're making $578 and putting up 7,000, almost $8,000.
Yeah, but that $8,000, it's good that we showed it. To me, it's fake because if we go crash down, then this buying power is going to go to 13,000.
It will. Yes, it will.
So let's in order to keep things fair, I would divide that by 13,000.
Correct.
And now it's a 4% yield, right?
So you went from 17 to 4%.
To 4%, right? And we went from 50% probability to 85% probability.
Yes, for every gimme, there's a gotcha.